literally just went, "Don't you look at her!" Like, full on yelled, like actually yelled because she looked at me. Like, what kind of aggro bitch do you have to be to do that? Hey guys, my name is Charlotte, aka Holly Sense, here on YouTube. If you don't know me, I do beauty, fashion and lifestyle type videos on this channel, so if you like that kind of thing, please subscribe. Also, for any returning subscribers, yes, my hair is different. I dyed it last night. My hair is usually like a mid-brown, but recently I started dyeing it to be like a darker warm brown. But I bought the wrong dye. Luckily, it's not ashy toned and it doesn't make me look ill when I've got no makeup on, so I'm not that bothered. Anyway, this video, as you can probably tell by the title, is a story time video. I've been dying to do this story time for months. So, for those of you who don't know, I went to college last year when I was like 18, turning 19, after my A-levels to do a business admin course. I decided like halfway through August that I was going to go to college and I was going to go with my then boyfriend. So I applied for the level 3 course, which is kind of equivalent to like A-levels, I guess, but there was only 5 of us who applied, so we were told we had to do the level 2 course. And I didn't find out I'd gotten into college until like a week before I was meant to start college, so that was fun because the admin got my address wrong. So I have this notebook with me. This is the notebook I decided to take to college with me to like do any like written work in. And there is a half page, a almost full page, and a not even half page, and they're all just one-sided, and that is off 2 units. That's all I was taught for the whole time that I was at the college. Also in this book, because I thought, well, I might as well use it for something good, I have written all the notes and like it's kind of dated for everything that happened. So I have this piece of paper which I cannot open. So yes, this is a printout of a survey that I took. So on the 27th of September we were told we had to do this survey for the college on the college computers. I'm not going to tell you which college I went to, but there's not many in the north, so you can probably work it out eventually. Yes, this is the 27th of September, and we were told that the survey was anonymous. It wasn't, because this is literally like all my answers, and it's put to my name, and we were told it was anonymous, and it wasn't. So we answered, well, me and my 2 friends answered completely honestly. So I said I wouldn't recommend the college to a friend or family member at all. I put 0 because of the fact that I didn't even know that I was in the college. I applied and heard nothing back until I rang like every day for a couple of days. So I underlined 5 things. So the first one is, I find my course enjoyable. I disagree with that. I find that I am learning. I disagreed. That is because the course isn't what I thought it was going to be. Partly because obviously I wasn't a level 2 and I'd just done A-levels. So, and I resat my first year while doing my second year. So I had a lot going on in my second year of A-levels. Hence why I failed the second year, but then passed the first year. I'll like talk about that at some point, but I was used to a whole lot of work and a lot of engagement from teachers and actually learning and writing stuff down. Like I showed you, I have 2 bits of work, like, well, basically 2 one-sided pages. 1 double-sided page of work from the whole time I was at that college. That's what I was taught. The rest of it is on my computer that I did myself, that I just had to make up So that's why I said I didn't find the course enjoyable and I didn't feel like I was learning. I was used to doing A-levels, I was used to writing, I was used to a teacher standing at the front of the class and telling us things. At college, it was literally just, okay, Karen, what are you doing? And it's like, well, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm learning off Moodle, which is like what the college uses, an online thing that tells you what like the course outline is. That's what everyone in the class was basing all their work off. Obviously, it's not a difficult course, so it wasn't hard to kind of figure it out. But at the same time, there was people in that class who were paying, and they could have done it at home. Like, I travelled for an hour and a half every day. That's just one way. Like, so 3 hours every day it took me to travel there and back for me to do the whole course by myself. Like, that's just ridiculous. Okay. The next thing on the line was, I'm satisfied with the atmosphere and lessons helps me learn. I disagreed because the classroom was really overcrowded at this point still. Usually colleges kind of like overpack a classroom because a lot of people drop out within the first like month. So you kind of had to fight over computers, and again, I was just being told to continue what I was doing on my computer. Like, the teacher just sat on the computer at the front of the room the whole time. I had 2 tutors, by the way, so yeah. The quality of teaching on my programme is good. I put strongly disagree, and I told them that they didn't teach us, and I'll get onto what they said about this whole thing in a minute. And the last thing I said I was given homework and activity to do out of class. I disagreed because there wasn't enough work to do in the class for me to do anything outside of the class, and we weren't given homework. I was never used to having homework, so I wouldn't like complain about not being given homework. But I disagreed because I wasn't being given homework. And any homework I could have been given, I could have done it in class. So basically, the whole time we were being disagreed with, they were just like, yeah, no, I don't agree with your opinion. And it's like, it's my opinion. You can't just not, like, you can't just say your opinion is wrong, like, to someone, because it's an opinion. It's not a fact. I mean, to me it was fact. The teaching was abominable, but yeah, that's all with that at the moment. So, on the 8th of November, again, I've written everything down. On the 8th of November, 2017, why have I put 2017? It totally wasn't 2017. Everything else I've put 2016, so I've put 2017, but it wasn't 2017 yet. I've never written a year wrong upwards. I only ever write a year wrong downwards, because that's like January and you still think it's the year before. Anyway, on the 8th of November 2016, we were called to the front of the class in the middle of the lesson. So, there's me, and obviously you've heard me talk about my best friend Caitlin. I met her at college. We also had another friend at the time, who I'm not going to say her name, because she's not in our lives. So yeah, Caitlin, like the 3 of us had written bad answers on the questionnaire. So Caitlin was called to talk to the 2 tutors privately at a table at the front of the classroom. Now, this was just a small round table, and like, so you had this table here, and then there was like a chair space before like the first set of computers started. Like, it was a really small classroom, so anyone there could just hear what we were saying, and in fact everyone in the classroom could hear what we were saying. So she was there for about 20 to 30 minutes, probably about 20, and then I was called to talk to them at the front of the classroom for another like 20-30 minutes. I was a bit more lucky because I had a tiny bit of actual privacy because it overran into break time, so that everyone in the classroom left. Caitlin and the other girl did wait for me outside the classroom, obviously, because Caitlin knew what it was about. She didn't say anything to the other girl at this point. She was just waiting. So both of us felt it was quite inappropriate to talk to us individually when we had the same answers, pretty much. Especially since it was in front of the class. We feel it should have been out of the class, like at break time. They should have talked to us privately if they wanted to go at lunchtime. That day at lunchtime we had an hour and a half break. So they had plenty of time to talk to us then in private, but instead they decided to kind of shout us out in front of the classroom. I felt very intimidated because it was very much 2 against 1, which wasn't fair. I've never been talked at by 2 teachers before. I've never really been told off, I don't think. Especially not in comprehensive school. In primary school I was told off like a couple of times. But in comprehensive school or like high school, I was very much a goody two shoes. I never did anything wrong. So being attacked by 2 teachers was just no. And as well, obviously, I would be considered a sensitive student given the fact that I have anxiety. So generally, you kind of have to treat problems like this slightly differently with someone with anxiety. You have to be a bit more sensitive, not talk to them in front of the whole class, not double team them, that kind of thing. It would set someone with anxiety off. Both tutors did know that I have anxiety. I told them in person, and it was on my personal records at the college. Caitlin also had that on her record as well. So like I said, everything we said about our opinions was basically, we would just said, well, you're wrong, we don't agree with your opinions, so you're wrong. I was told by the tutors, they both said to my face that they were refusing to take any work home to mark. So it was like 2 pages long. Obviously single sided because it's printed off a computer, so 2 sides long, a bit of work, and I handed that in probably like a week after starting, if that, and I didn't get it back until the end of the first term. So for anyone who obviously isn't in England and doesn't understand how school terms work here, we have 3 terms. So you have like the beginning of the school year, which will be kind of like summer, autumn, then autumn, winter, and then winter, spring. So obviously you have your 6 weeks off, but then you have 2 weeks off in December for Christmas and 2 weeks off for Easter, and then in the middle of each of those terms you have 1 week off. Well, in the middle of each, in the middle of each term you have 1 week off. So this was at the 1 week point, which is usually in October. So we had to wait like a month and a half for work back, which is ridiculous. There wasn't that many people in the classroom at that point. So yeah, they said they would only mark work in college, and one of the teachers only worked 4 days and the other one only worked 3 days. One of them is a half day, I'm pretty sure. So it's not like they worked 6 days a week like most usual teachers do, because like that's what every single teacher told me, that they work 6 days a week. They have 1 week, they have 1 day over the weekend where they do their marking, and they do it like after work at home and stuff, like on a weekday. I've got like a bit of Alfie's fur on my nose, I don't know why. And they don't even work full time and were refusing to take work home to mark. And they said the reason for this was that the last year they made themselves really ill with stress. And I mean, while I understand that, as a teacher it is kind of your job to get everyone's work done. Like if you haven't marked our work, we cannot finish it for it to then be sent off to be marked by the exam board to then be told if we pass or fail. So we would automatically fail the course if you don't get them work done in time, which would be a very stressful thing to do. So it would make sense to do just a little bit at home. Even on one of your days off, you'd still have 2 days off or 3 days off. You know, like instead of taking up time in the classroom to mark it. And even then they weren't marking it in the classroom during class time. So I don't know. As well, you shouldn't tell a student that you're refusing to do stuff. Like, you just shouldn't. It's very unprofessional. They would also constantly be complaining that they don't have time to mark. So, but you do. Like, you have your spare time, which most teachers do. My A-level philosophy and ethics teacher was amazing. He always took the time to make sure all of his students were happy. So like he was pretty much like my therapist in my second year of A-levels. You know, if you had a matching free period with him, he would take that whole hour to talk things through with you and see what's going on, whether that be in his classroom, whether you were stuck with his work, or if you had something going on in your personal life. He was just the nicest person ever. And he was doing his PhD at the same time. He had a lot going on, and he never once complained about taking work home. Especially since he had an A-level class, one like a GCSE class. I think he actually had two. He had a year 10 class and a year 11 class, and at least a year, like one of the year 7, 8 and 9 class, like at least two. He might not have had all three, but he had at least two of the classes aside from that. So he had a lot of classes. These people had two. They had the level 1s and level 2s. That's it. Okay, some of the things both me and Caitlin picked up on when we were being talked at was some of the things they said to us. So about the whole like atmosphere in the classroom. So we were told that we had sour faces, that we looked miserable, and that we created a negative atmosphere in the class. I don't know about you, but I think it's quite unprofessional to tell a student that they're miserable and look sour-faced when we don't. Like, whenever possible, we'd be laughing and like smiling all the time. We were fairly chatty in that classroom, but we were constantly laughing, so I don't know how we look sour-faced and miserable all the time if we're constantly laughing. So that doesn't make much sense to me. And we were told that we had to think about other people because they have things going on. So basically they said we weren't allowed to bring our baggage into the classroom and make a negative atmosphere if we had stuff going on in our personal lives. But at the same time we had to think about other people because they have things going on. And I'm just like, well, I'm sorry, if I'm not allowed to think about what I have going on, I'm not thinking about what other people have got going on. If I'm not allowed to bring baggage, neither is anyone else. That's not fair. You also kind of tell a student that they're not allowed to bring their baggage into the classroom. As a teacher, you're meant to like care about the well-being of your students, and if they have something going on, that is included in their welfare, and you should care about that. Because again, like I said, my A-level philosophy teacher, he cared about what I had going on in my personal life. And he listened to me, and he like gave me good advice, and he was just really caring, and that's what a teacher should be, in my opinion. If you're not going to be like that for your students, don't be a fucking teacher. It's as simple as that. When it came to the thing about the teaching, they said they weren't allowed to give a lot of support and help to the students. However, not being allowed to give a lot of support means you can't write for them. It doesn't mean that you can't do any teaching on the course whatsoever. So again, a waste of 3 hours every day going to college on buses. Like, I don't live near town. I didn't go to Newcastle College, but like I don't live anywhere near that. Like, for me to get to my college, it took like, obviously it was like a 40-minute bus ride, and then waiting for another 10-minute bus ride, then a 10-minute walk to the college. So I had to do that every day, and it just wasn't necessary. If I was just learning by myself, I could have done that work at home, but like, whatever. So one thing I didn't have to worry about because I was 18, so they weren't like, oh well, nothing about you matters. But Caitlin was 17 at the time, and she said she was made to feel stupid and worthless because they implied that because she's 17, she doesn't really have any problems or life experience that could compare to theirs. And both of us were told that if we knew what was going on in their lives, that they'd be horrified. And I was just like, I'm not someone who deals well with confrontation. I won't talk back. I'll just, like, especially if it's a person of authority. If it's my mum, then I do. But like, if it's someone of authority to me, I won't talk back. I'll just kind of sit there and be yelled at and just be like, okay, sorry. I never said sorry, I will say that, but I was just like, right, okay. I was just like, if I had said what I wish I did, I would have been like, if you knew what happened in my life, you'd be horrified too. Like, my best friend has just had cancer, not Caitlin, a different best friend. Like, I genuinely thought my best friend that I've had my whole life could possibly die. I have been bullied. I was just called Gollum for about 2 years. I couldn't look in the mirror for 3 months because I felt so ugly and I felt sick looking at myself. I was inappropriately touched as a child. I have literally been suicidal. I have such bad anxiety, I can't leave my house a lot of the time. You would be pretty horrified with what's happened in my life too. I have literally dealt with a fucking psychopath who ruined my life when I was in GCSEs, or the year before GCSEs, year 9, yeah, whatever. I've literally dealt with a fucking psychopath. I have been through so much shit in my then 18 years of life, now 20, been through even more shit, that, yeah, they would have been pretty fucking horrified too. I don't care if your 40-something asses have had a horrifying life. So many people have had a horrifying life. I wouldn't be horrified with what you've been through, probably. So, stick that up your ass. Because clearly, you need to be put in your fucking place. And I was like, I've been bullied by kids and now I'm being bullied by a fucking teacher. This is not what I need in my horrific life. Thank you very much. So again, very unprofessional. Just, no, you don't say that to a student. You just don't. Okay, so that's kind of like the gist of what happened. There was some other stuff, but that's kind of boring, or like what I've kind of already gone over. So the next day, we went to see the leader of like the business courses about this, because also the next day the other girl was talked to more privately. It was only by one of the tutors, the one who works less days, and we were in the library at the time, so it was a bigger place. There was a bigger gap between tables, so she had a lot more privacy. We couldn't hear a thing that was being said. And again, just kind of disagree with her opinion. She felt very frustrated and kind of like, well, what the fuck am I here for? So that night, me and Caitlin went to see the leader of the course and just said, look, this happened, we're really not happy with it. We didn't feel like anything we said mattered, and literally we just felt very cornered and intimidated. Is this even okay? Is there something can be put in place? Can you just like make sure teachers know not to talk to like students like that, you know, to at least pull them so it's private, you know? And so he talked to the tutors, so obviously they found out that we went to them, and they weren't happy, basically. So, on the 15th of November, this is 2 days before my birthday, we had just gotten to class. It was a Tuesday morning, I think. So yeah, I think it's exactly like a week after the first time. Tuesdays was our longest day. We worked like 9 till 5:30. It was definitely the longest like work day we had. I had got there before Caitlin and the girl, and I was just waiting for my computer to turn on, and I figured I looked fairly neutral faced. I do have resting bitch face, I will add. Like if I'm just kind of sat there, I'm just kind of like I don't look happy. But that's my resting face. I can't fucking do anything about that, can I? Caitlin also has resting bitch face. Not our fault, the other girl doesn't. So Caitlin and the girl came in a couple minutes later. They usually walked from like the metro, not the metro centre, the metro was in the tube station, together. Because I got the bus, they didn't. And basically, Caitlin had been sat down. Basically, the way we sat was other girl, Caitlin, me. We sat like that every day. So Caitlin was in between us. And she was just sitting, waiting for her computer to load, because anyone who's ever been in the school before knows that when you're waiting for multiple computers to log in, it takes a lot more time than just waiting for one to log in. So she was just sat there kind of like leaning like hand on her face and stuff. And one of the tutors comes over and says, now Caitlin, what did we talk about the other week, you know, can it be looking so negative? And Caitlin just kind of looks at me, kind of like, what? And she can't, like, at this point, she was facing away from the teacher, so the teacher couldn't see the kind of face, but she was kind of like, and I kind of made the same face back, kind of subtly. I was like, we didn't say anything. And the teacher just went, "Don't you look at her," like full on yelled, like actually yelled because she looked at me. Like, what kind of aggro bitch do you have to be to do that? So, and she again just started yelling like, "I'm sick of your attitude, I don't understand what your problem is." And then the other tutor came over and like, she was a lot more calm, she never like yelled, but this one was like really aggro and constantly yelling at us. And literally just screaming at us in front of the whole class, like literally the whole class could hear because she was screaming at us and we were just at our seats for no reason, because Caitlin walked in and was sat waiting for her computer to turn on with her head in her hand. Like, if that's not like singling someone out, I don't know what is. So we were just kind of being a bit like passive aggressive for the rest of the lesson because we're mature. But at break time, we had a half an hour break that day, and there was another member of the class, Alison, who was like the oldest member of the class. She was in her 40s, I think, and we were talking to her and a couple of the students, and apparently these students had been there the year before during the level 1 class. There'd been another girl who left the college because both tutors kept picking on her for being late some days. Wasn't like her fault, I think it was like buses or whatever, which anyone knows buses are so unreliable. It's not your fault if you're late because of them. Like, you could be getting a bus that should get you there well in time for like whatever your appointment is, but they're late or there's traffic and it's not your fault. Like, Newcastle is so bad, like, well, just the general northeast is so bad for traffic, it's ridiculous, at like between 8 and 9 on the morning. So again, didn't go to Newcastle College. I wish I did. But we decided, you know, with Alison's advice and after hearing this, maybe we should just like clear the air. So the three of us went to the classroom because we knew both of them were there, and we were going to just talk things out and see what the problem is. Anyway, so the other girl directly says to only one of the tutors that we wanted to talk to her, and she says, "Well, I think the other tutor should be involved in this too, not just me." And they were picking up that we were apparently just singling out this one tutor, and it's like, no, we wanted to talk to the both of you. Like, calm down. So, for what we wanted to be us explaining ourselves, ended up us being yelled at again for a further 15 minutes. So we were basically told that we were like witches cackling around a cauldron, that if we were their daughters, they'd be disappointed, that we would never get hired in real life. All three of us had jobs at the time though, so that doesn't make sense. We were told that we were bullying them and that we deserved, they said that they hoped that we got bullied later on in life, which is just a horrible thing to say. If you are being bullied, you wouldn't wish being bullied on anyone, so clearly we weren't actually the ones bullying them. They also told us that they don't care if we go to their like manager or not, they're going to still be the way that they are, and that they don't care if we stay on the course or not. And then they said, well, the aggro one said that we're either with them or against them, and if we're against them they can be a whole lot worse, which is an actual threat, which is gross misconduct and can get you fired. So you're damn right, this bitch wrote that shit down. So at this point, because I'm so bad at conflict and I was being yelled at and called horrible things, I was about to speak, like the nicer one, not the nice one, the quieter one said, "What was the problem, girls?" And I was gonna say, because at this point I was the only one who really was gonna say what needed to be said, but I was feeling so anxious at that time. I just burst into tears because I was literally, my whole body was screaming at me to run out of the classroom, and I just started crying, and I left and had a giant panic attack outside the college. And then Caitlin came out crying, and apparently the other girl just like, "Oh, we just wanted to say sorry," not what we wanted to say at all. I emailed the manager of the course that we had a meeting with on behalf of both of us, saying that we wouldn't be returning to the college, give a brief explaining why, I rang my mum, who was at work, left a voicemail. She rang me straight away. When I told my parents when I got home, or when they got home, they were so furious. I'd been home for about an hour by the time they rang. I had my then boyfriend come over because I was just so upset and I just needed like someone to stay with me. And he was just kind of like, what the fuck, that's ridiculous. So anyway, the agro teacher rang me and was like, oh, I hope that you'll be back tomorrow. And like, I hope you can just sweep this all under the rug. And I was like, I'll think about it, I'll let you know. And I just didn't let them know. Anyway, the leader of the course rang on my birthday, and basically we decided to set up a meeting. Me and Caitlin told him what happened, and he said he'd talk to them. I wasn't happy with the outcome, so I decided to take it higher, and I sent a formal complaint to the head of the college, well, my parents did. And the vice principal was the person who took the complaint. So I went and had a meeting with her about that. I took my notebook, I told her everything that happened, and basically what the teachers had been saying about me and Caitlin didn't match what our tutor, you have like a tutorial type thing once a week, it didn't match what our tutor had written about us. You know, our tutor really liked us and had put on our reports that we were really hardworking and good students and all this kind of stuff. So, and this tutor knew more about us, like she'd taken the time out to get to know us since joining the college, so obviously that didn't match. And I was just very calm and told her what happened, and then I called Caitlin and said, look, she would like to speak to you. If you want to have a meeting with her, here's her number, you ring her if you want to. If you don't, that's totally fine. So then Caitlin went and had a meeting with her and said, you know, all the same things. So they had an investigation, and I had a letter back saying that they had found evidence that they weren't teaching us correctly and that they were very sorry about that. And then a few months later, in I think it was like February or March, the leader of the course basically asked us for a meeting and said, the teachers are gone, so basically you just can come back if you want to. So we finished the course in overall 18 weeks out of like 30 odd. Like we finished it in like half the time that we should have been given. So fuck you teachers thinking that we couldn't even finish the fucking course, because we fucking did. So yeah, that is the story of how I dropped out of college and proceeded to get my teachers fired. At least I assume they were fired. They probably were. Yeah. That was actually, it was quite a traumatic time going through that, because it was being picked on by a student, it's whatever, being picked on by a teacher, it really makes you not want to be somewhere. I had really bad anxiety over going to college because of it, so at the time I was in counselling, so it kind of helped me go through it easier. But so I am going to leave this video here. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye!